was born into a family where my dad, S.A. Welgama, is regarded as the pioneer of road haulage in Sri Lanka. So the DNA is very much present. And then thereafter, after my primary education, I went overseas for studies to the UK, where I spent 11 years. I was managing a firm of chartered accountants there. But at the back of my mind, I always wanted to come back and do something in the motor industry. So whilst I was in the UK in 1987, I started a company called Ideal Plant and Vehicles Limited, where I used to export a lot of the premier cars, the Mercedes, BMWs and so on worldwide from England, some of which also came to Sri Lanka. They were brand new. I was exporting these cars to parallel importers in various countries, so it was a very lucrative business. So that's what I did, and then I returned home whilst the business was ongoing in the UK. I had a partner, Gamini Vitarana, who's now in retirement, of course. And then the real break came when we partnered Mahindra and Mahindra in 2009. And then I learned about car dealerships, and I changed the entire gambit of selling cars when I put more emphasis on aftermarket.
Okay.
I ensured that our customers were well cared for with spare parts, backup services. That's what I really concentrated in. I made sure that we had a network to serve our customers throughout the island, rather than them having to come all the way to Colombo in a centralized operation. I decentralized the whole thing. And then Mahindra was very impressed with what we did. So they gave me an opportunity to decide what I wanted to do with them, because they said, look, we are making money out of Sri Lanka. Obviously, there's a lot of gratitude. So we would like to give something back to Sri Lanka. So that's when I told them categorically that my dream is to assemble a car with them.
Okay.
So that's when they actually set up the plant in Kalutara in Velipan,
right.
where they invested into equity, and they are running the plant. It's a Mahindra plant.
Right.
Of course, we own 65% and they own 35%, but it's managed by Mahindra. And the migration to assembly gave me a huge insight into car making.
Okay.
And then, the whole world was obviously changing dramatically. There was a disruption from ICE, from the internal combustion engine, to the electric vehicles, because it was spearheaded by Elon Musk, as you know, of Tesla. So that also got me thinking. So now I'm 3 years on with car assembly, and then I thought I should do something by myself, as a homegrown product. So that's when I thought, okay, the conventional car has a lot of aggregates like engines, gearboxes, all sorts of things. But the electric side is not that complicated.
No, it isn't.
So it's possible to do it locally. So that's when I embarked upon this homegrown Moksha project.
Right. Well, I mean, I've noticed that even the Ideal Group as a whole has embraced sustainability and things like that. Was it easy for you to decide on an electric car because of those core values that had already existed in your organization before that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Kevin. Actually, my dad came from the village. He came from very poor circumstances. It was a rags to riches story. So we were very close to nature. My grandfather was a farmer, and we were very close to the nature, and we really enjoyed, going to our hometown in Kalutara, and then mingling with those, with our relations who were very poor, and so I was very, I always wanted to drive that sustainability principle, and that was
this. What's the reception been like over the past month or so? I mean, we've seen it, but from the horse's mouth itself, would you tell us, please?
Yeah. Well, it's the inquiries and the demand has been overwhelming. In fact, I planned a visit to Australia
Mm-hmm.
immediately after the unveiling,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to cut short my trip and return home because of this overwhelming inquiries that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone past 2,000. But I'm not taking any deposits at this juncture. But I'm actually making a log of all the serious customers,
Yeah.
and I'm also creating a website for the Moksha, so that people will be can log in and find out what's happening
Yeah.
at any point in time,
Okay.
the making of the Moksha, and how it's going to be turned out.
Right.
And hopefully, I'm going to. My wish is to try and launch it at the end of November
Mm-hmm.
or the beginning of December. So it will have to be done this year.
Yeah.
So that's my real aim. So there's a huge waiting list for the Moksha, and that's growing every day.
Mm.
And that's why I thought it's a good idea to have a website so people can log in and see
Right.
exactly what's happening at each stage of its progress.
So is it fair to say that it's a very, very busy assembly line right now?
Yes, I'm actually setting up the assembly line. The challenge, Kevin, in making cars is to find the suppliers who would supply you with the various components and
Mhm.
materials. So in Sri Lanka, because our local suppliers are fairly rudimentary,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't had a lot of experience, so we have to coach them. A lot of people now, for example, the glass manufacturers.
Right.
So they import the raw glass from, say, China,
Mm-hmm.
and then they cut it to size, and then certain areas like the windshield will have to be curved
Right.
because that has a curved windscreen.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a challenge for them. So we work with them very closely,
Mm.
giving them the inputs that are required to how to curve it properly. But then again, that's not the end of it. You know, when you're rolling out 1,000 vehicles, you can imagine, you know, the resources that
Right.
go into it.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is, rather than, you know, import everything from overseas, I want to do it locally as much as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to empower the local suppliers and the local manufacturers. So that's my main aim. You know, otherwise the entire purpose is lost.
Right.
We need to really empower them. So the challenge is to actually do that. You know, because there are quite a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I'm actually working very closely with them, with the ministries also,
Mm.
trying to get them the approvals, the expertise, etc.
So the benefits, I suppose, is twofold. Then it's not only for the consumer.
No.
It's not only for the
It's the industry.
It's the industry, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just. I mean, I myself benefit
Mm.
from purchasing a Moksha
Yeah.
because I mean, obviously with the fuel and the oil crisis, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I might.
That's only one side of the
That's
coin.
only exactly
Yeah.
like you said.
The more important thing is the other, the work that goes into it,
Mm.
you know, which is unseen.
like stimulating the economy.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And then creating this niche, and also taking the component manufacturers to a level not seen before, you know, to the international level.
Yes.
Because we do have a FTA with India, but it's a one-sided FTA because we don't export anything to
Yeah.
India. We hardly do.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity because India is the, Chennai is the Detroit of India,
Right.
which is only an hour away.
Mm.
So we can actually supply quite a lot of components to India if we are recognized as proper component manufacturers. And that's what I've done
Mm.
with the creation of the Mahindra plant,
Mm.
because Mahindra is an auto major in India. So if a seat manufacturer in Sri Lanka, for example, has been approved by Mahindra, then he becomes an original equipment manufacturer.
Okay.
That's the difference. So Mahindra will approve the seat manufacturer. Now, for example, one of the world's biggest seat manufacturers is a company called Magna.
Okay.
So Magna has a big presence in India, and they manufacture seats for all the Indian cars, from a Mercedes to a BMW to Mahindra, Tata, the entire
Right.
the entire thing. So they have partnered the seat manufacturer here in Sri Lanka. Mahindra got them together.
Wow.
It would not have been possible for a small tiny
Yeah.
country like us to even get a look in
Yeah.
with such a company. But because of Mahindra being one of their top customers,
Yeah.
they couldn't say no to Mahindra. So they sent a team and they trained our boys. Our boys went to India and now they are working, with Magna.
Okay.
And those seats that we manufacture here are of such a high quality, high standard, that we can now manufacture seats to suit all the cars. So in the Indian car park, because we are now approved as a original equipment manufacturer.
Right.
So that's the difference.
Wow.
There is more than what meets the eye.
Yeah. It's not just
Whereas Kevin, if they gave me a kit, if Mahindra gave me a kit and said, okay, Ideal Group, here's your kit,
assemble this.
assemble it, then that doesn't apply, because then I can decide where I'm going to have my seats,
Yeah.
buy my seats, and batteries and tires and so on. So they don't become original equipment manufacturers because they're not certified by Mahindra. They're certified by
Right.
me then.
Right.
So that's the essential difference. So the minute that happens, it opens that door towards an export opportunity to India.
Yeah.
You see, that's what I did. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not just
Yeah.
that's a component that I never thought about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, when
and we are the only company who has really partnered. When I say partnered, not giving a kit. Even Upali Vijayawardhan has Fiat with all his wisdom.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of respect for him. But Fiat never invested any money. Mazda didn't invest any money. Upali did it himself. But in my case, it is a Mahindra plant.
Yeah.
It is they who decide who the local component manufacturers are, and they are certified by them, and they are checked by them.
Yeah.
There are regular audits that take place.
And that
That's
works
how
out.
it is. That's when you can really, bring them up to the world stage,
Wow.
and they are now in the world stage. So that's why it's easier for me to manufacture the Moksha locally, because I know how it works.
Yes. Yes,
You see?
because you got the Mahindra plant and you've got all the
That's right.
components.
I'm creating an ecosystem
Mm.
around the plant of all the the manufacturers, the auto
Yeah.
component manufacturers, who are feeding this assembly.
Oh, wow. Never thought of it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, that's the difference.
Okay. Well, there you have it. Well, this Sri Lanka has taken a little bit of a hit in our
Huge hit.
reputation. A huge hit, shall we say. Especially in the international community with the reputation that we had.
Sure.
What do you think something like your brainchild, your invention, the Moksha, what do you think something like that would go in restoring to what extent do you think it'll go into restoring the reputation that we used to have?
So actually, Sri Lanka went down into a precipice after the rating agencies rated us downwards, so that we couldn't go to the international markets and borrow. So that was the start of all of this
Yeah.
that we're experiencing. So what we need to do is to move away from a market economy to a production economy,
Right.
which is the need of the hour. So what we've done is when I told you about the local component manufacturers, by empowering them, we are substituting those imports, which is called import substitution. Otherwise, that foreign forex would have gone overseas
Right.
to import the material that's required. But if it's locally manufactured, then there's import substitution.
Right.
And also the same with motor vehicles. So if we start manufacturing our motor vehicles in Sri Lanka, right, then what happens is that the imports from India and from other countries will be that much less, because then we become fairly self-sufficient in what we do. So we preserve the forex, the little forex we have. I think that's the way forward, and that's what India did in the 90s. And they have become the the fourth largest vehicle manufacturer in the world today.
Yeah.
You know, exporting a lot of their vehicles overseas and getting better and better. So we need to make a start, and this is the start that we badly need. So I'm hoping that a lot of the other Sri Lankan manufacturers will also join me in this initiative. This is what we need to do.
In helping the forex
In manufacturing motorcycles, vehicles, sorry, light trucks, and whatever.
Okay.
So this is the start. So we need to progress from here.
Right. Okay. And well, do you think this is the future? I mean, in the sense, do you think electric vehicles? That's the future in vehicle manufacturing. I mean, we don't have a lot of local producers or local manufacturers. But do you think electric vehicles is the future? Do you think that's
Absolutely.
where it's headed?
This is the disruption that the whole world is experiencing right now. So by 2030, 2035, it will all be electric. But there's one thing that I need to caution you, and that is, in Sri Lanka we don't have the infrastructure for charging of electric vehicles, which is very expensive at this minute. So a lot of the electric vehicles, if we go into a fast adoption of EVs in Sri Lanka, which we must,
Yeah.
then a lot of people will start charging their cars at home or in their office.
Right.
So this will have a adverse impact on the grid,
Okay.
because the grid will be supplying the electricity units that are required. So that will put undue pressure on the grid.
Okay.
And that's one of the problems that we are facing, because we are burning oil. Although we have about 40 to 45% of hydro, mostly the rest is from burning oil. So we need to minimize that.
Okay.
So how do we do that? Is to also fast adopt the migration to roof solar.
Okay.
Now, for example, in your home, your electricity bill is going to double. So if you put a solar on your roof, right, you would have a initial capex, a capital expenditure of, if you put a 3 kilowatt system on your roof, it might cost you 7,50,000, 8 lakhs or thereabouts. But that will offset your electricity bill, which you pay monthly.
Yeah.
And if you have an electric car, that will also power the electric car.
Yeah.
And then in 5 years, that's your payback. If you take a 5-year period, you would get your investment back. That's what we call the payback.
The payback. Yeah.
Right? Because your ROI would be about 20%. But thereafter, you have another 10 to 15 years of free electricity.
Free. Yeah.
Completely free. So that is where we need to really try to, we need to tell the government to give low-cost finance for people to install solar on their roofs, because that's the way that we can overcome this surge that I mentioned with the fast adoption of EVs, the surge of the electricity usage on the grid.
It's about nailing that point.
That's very important.
Yeah.
That's very, very important.
Well, Mr. Welgama, I've got a question here from one of our listeners. We'll get to that because I actually have a similar question to what he sent here. So we'll get to that question as soon as I ask you this one. What kind of, I don't know if you've actually done this but what kind, if any, of profiling have you done for the kind of customer do you think you will be mostly serving when you think of people who will be purchasing the Moksha? Has there any profiling?
Very good question. If I take you back to the Nano, the Nano that Ratan Tata, it was his brainchild. He made one cardinal mistake. He called it the 1 lakh car, but he called it the world's cheapest car.
Okay.
So people didn't want to buy the cheapest car because there's this ego in all of us humans.
They want to be associated.
They
with
don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So that idea of a cheap car should not be entertained at all. So I'm calling mine is an affordable car, right? So from that perspective, it's a car that every household must have. So the top end car with all the bells and whistles could be around the 4 million mark. Whereas, I mean, you take a Maruti,
Yeah.
2012-13 car, it's still going to be sold, right now it's sold around 2.8, 2.9
Right.
million rupees.
Yeah.
So this vehicle, actually, it has more room than a Maruti inside. It's got much more cabin
Which you
space.
wouldn't be able to tell from outside.
Yeah, absolutely. But you'd be surprised when you get in. So, around the 4 million mark for a car with all the options is a very good price. So, so there will be a car with much less options, which will be watered down
Yeah.
as an affordable car. So I'm looking at that, even Kevin, now if you look at a three-wheeler, now we are talking about electric three-wheelers.
Yes.
Electric three-wheeler will cost you anything from 2.5 to 3 million today. So this car is just above it.
Yeah, just a few more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we are on about. Even the electric, we have 1.2 electric, we have 1.2 three-wheelers in Sri Lanka registered. So this is the next step up for them.
Right. So I picked up on the price range that you mentioned. We're looking at 4 million. Is that
Yes,
what
that's
we're-
I'm trying to keep it as low as possible, to be very honest,
Okay.
because it's not that I want to profit from this, exorbitantly. I want to give a good deal to the Sri Lankans, because we've been battered for so long. I truly want to do something for Sri Lanka.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm just going to get into this question real quick. Question regarding the car. How exactly does it work? What's the process like? What's the process look like on the inside? That's the question. What's I suppose the question is.
Well, inside, as I
Yeah.
told you, Kevin, I used to dabble in European cars. So I've given it a European finish inside,
Oh.
with the push start, with the 7-inch infotainment systems,
Right.
electric windows, and all the bells and whistles you'll find inside. It's like a mini Mercedes car inside.
Right.
It is really nice. So that's the inside is going to be a very nicely presented, much like a European car,
Right.
right? And what was the other question that he?
How exactly does it work? I suppose because I don't think a lot of us have
Well,
experience.
it's got two hub motors
Mhm.
of 5 kilowatts each on either on the rear wheels, and it's got a battery capacity of about 23 kilowatts. It'll give you 200 kilometers on a charge, and it's
Okay.
got air conditioning as well.
All right.
So a small car with air conditioning.
Mm.
So that's why I said it's got everything that is required, really. And it's going to be a great car. That's why I'm so keen to do my best, my
Right.
absolute best with everything that I've learned
Yeah.
in my 35-year journey
Yeah.
in the motor trade.
And this is
So-
something you've been looking forward to for a very long time.
I really want to do something with Sri Lanka. I mean, I'll give it my best shot.
Mr. Welgama, sometimes when we do something, when we undertake a project, we end up feeling very underwhelmed at the end result. How was it for you when you were told by the people at the plant, okay, the first prototype is done, we'd like for you to come take a look at it? What was your first impression getting into the first ever Moksha model? What was it like for you?
Well, it was very fascinating, but I worked very closely with this small team that I picked, about 10 of them, and I used to nurture them. I used to visit them 2 or 3 times a week, look at the progress. So I knew at each stage what was happening.
Right.
But then on the day, we unveiled it on the 28th. So around the 26th, the car was ready. It was coming out, and that's when I actually got into the car, and I did a test drive down the Ratmalana area where this, our airport,
Yeah.
Ratmalana, that stretch.
Yeah.
That long stretch, and I was amazed at
You get
at
stares
the,
from
at
people
the
on the
talk
road.
and how it handled. So it was really great. It's very fascinating. In my 35-year journey, I think that was a pinnacle. The real. There's a lot of satisfaction that I get from this.
And what was the first reactions from other people, if you will, or other people who might have?
Well, they couldn't believe that that we are able to manufacture a car. It was something that was beyond them, and they felt that, oh my goodness, how did you do it? Because it came out so well, because everyone put their hearts and minds into it. So that shows that if you really put your heart and mind into something, that you can do it. That's how Obama won the presidential election, way back with the slogan, "Yes, we can."
Yes, yes, we can. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, final thoughts coming up with Mr. Welgama. So, if you have any more questions, do pop them over to our WhatsApp line 076-961-1078. It's been a fascinating discussion so far, and we can't wait to wrap things up, because I'm very excited. Not only do I want to wrap this show up, I actually want to head over to Rally Panda right now and see for myself what's going on in that plant. I'm pretty sure Sasha wants to join me as well. But final thoughts coming up with Mr. Welgama. For now, we'll just head back to more music and be right back. Here's Zayn Malik for you. I guess how
that's
that
an
came
interesting
about.
question. We all know that the car, the motor car, started with Carl Benz in Germany, when he manufactured a car for his wife Martha in the late 80s. That was a ICE engine, that is internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
But then there was this guy again in Germany called Andreas Flocken. So Andreas Flocken manufactured the first electric car.
Okay.
About 5-6 years thereafter. That was the Electrowagen. That means the electric car in Germany.
Yeah.
So that was the start. And then when there was more momentum for the electric car, the oil companies were gaining ground during that time. So they knew that if the electric car is encouraged, they would lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they, put a stop to it. They made sure that it died a natural death. So that's what happened. And also, the first thereafter, it was Henry Ford who started. He manufactured a car, something like a quadricycle, a few years thereafter in the US. But he was the first entrepreneur who developed the assembly line.
Okay.
Now, although Germans manufactured the first cars, it was Henry Ford who introduced the assembly line to market the cars worldwide. So it was in 1907, 1908 when he started the T model.
The T model,
in Detroit, where Kevin, he ended up selling 15 million of those cars.
Wow.
15 million. It was huge.
Yeah, back then.
And this 15 million, that was broken by Volkswagen later, because Volkswagen sold 21 million cars. But that's when Hitler, people don't know this. Hitler in 1933 or thereabouts, he summoned Ferdinand Porsche, the founder of Volkswagen, and Porsche, of course. And he said, look, Germany needs a car for 4 people to go in a family.
Okay.
And it has to go at 100 kilometers per hour. And I would like you to build a car like that. So that's when in 1937 or 38, he produced the Volkswagen at the behest of Hitler. Because Hitler, wanted him to manufacture this car. And he sold 21 million Beetles worldwide. So that was huge. Whereas Ford, they sold 15 million of the T models. And then, of course, the father of free electricity was Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison. So actually, Elon Musk, he named it he named Tesla. He named his car Tesla.
Tesla, yeah.
Because he made the disruption, and today he is the world's most richest man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so in a short spell of time,
Yeah.
you know, in 2008 he was nearly bankrupt. It
Right.
was, you know, it has been a short journey. But he's made such a big difference and a huge disruption that everyone, all the other major automakers are now following him.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole world is following him.
Yeah, the very
So,
self-sufficient.
so that's a little bit about the history before I go.
Right. Okay. Well, just one more question for you coming in as well. Will there be a guide or instruction on how to use the vehicle
Yes,
initially?
of course.
Yeah.
Of
I think that's a
course.
very important.
We are compiling a handbook on how to drive these safely, its maintenance. Yeah, it'll be, because don't forget, you know, we are very customer centric.
Yeah,
at
that's something
Ideal
you said
Group,
at the
and
very
we
beginning.
we have a lot of touch points all over Sri Lanka, and we will ensure that all the customers are given, you know, the right tips of the do's and the don'ts and how to maintain these cars, these electric vehicles. So it'll be a nice experience for everyone, I hope.
Right.
So thank you very much for having me on your show.
Yeah, thank
much
you.
appreciated.
Mr.
And
Kumar Welgama here, by the way. I'm sorry.
Kumar is my brother.
Sorry, I was Mr.
No
Nalin
worries, no
Welgama.
worries.
Oh, I can't believe I was there.
I'm very
Yeah.
used to this.
Mr. Nalin Welgama, I beg your
Yeah.
pardon. Before we let you go, Mr. Welgama, any final thoughts? Why should we buy your car?
Well, you should buy the car because it's Sri Lankan and it's homegrown.
Yeah.
And I'm putting Sri Lanka on the world map of
Yeah.
manufactured cars. So we all have to be proud of the car.
Yeah.
But if you have any suggestions, do share it with me,
Yeah.
because I'm a good listener and I always like to learn. I never say that I know it all. So, you know, perhaps you have better ideas, good ideas, which I can implement. So yes, feel free.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Yeah.
Welgama. We'd love
Good
for you
luck.
to come back, perhaps after November or December,
Yes.
and
when it's launched.
when it's
for sure.
launched, and
Yeah.
we'd love for you to
Yeah,
tell
we'll do
us,
that.
what your initial thoughts are.
Fantastic.
Right, there we go, ladies and
you.
gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening in. We'll continue on with the show. Well, that's it for Mr. Welgama's time here on the show. We'll head back to more music.